16th. And the special meeting of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission is being conducted entirely via Zoom. Is hereby called to order at 6:07 p.m. Protocol for today's meeting was previously reviewed by Corporation Counsel, who indicated to me it is compliant with the executive orders issued by the governor and fair for those watching from a remote location. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I'll start off with a roll call of the commission, so please verbally indicate that you are present when your name is called. Commissioner Kelly?
Present.
Commissioner Parkins?
Present.
Commissioner Radomski? Commissioner Radomski indicated to me by a text message he is returning from his place of business. He does intend to join us. So Commissioner Laskos?
Present.
Okay, Commissioner Laskos, I will seat you for Commissioner Radomski. You'll stay through an entire agenda item. Okay. Commissioner Motto?
Here.
Commissioner Tiki?
Here.
Myself, Commissioner Harger, Mr. Rossetti,
Present.
Mr. O'Neill.
He's stuck in traffic, should be on shortly.
Okay, Mr. Nappi,
Here.
Mr. Panico,
Here.
Mrs. Vernassos isn't here. Okay, Stephanie Charbonneau.
Present.
Thank you. And for the record, alternate Commissioner Usel indicated to me that he was unavailable for today's meeting. Couple points before continuing with today's agenda. This is the Commission's 38th meeting being done via live streaming process. Mr. Rossetti will act as the Zoom meeting host. While the commissioners will be able to make comments throughout the meeting, the chair asks that you please identify yourself and wait to be recognized before speaking to make sure we're not all speaking over each other and to make sure our recording secretary and our Stephanie is clear as to who is speaking. Our two agenda items are public hearings. After each public hearing is announced, the applicant will begin by making a presentation of its proposal. During and after the presentation, the commission will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, which can be answered at that time or after the presentation. After the presentation has been completed and after the commission has finished asking questions, members of the public will be invited to address the commission about the proposal. Members of the public addressing the commission during today's public hearing need to be mindful of the following. After you're identified by Mr. Rossetti, please state and spell your name and state your address to assist the recording secretary and stenographer when doing the minutes and transcript of the public hearing. All comments and questions are to be directed to the chair only, not to the applicant and or his associates. No dialogue is permitted between the public and the applicant or any of the applicant's associates. All comments from the public should address specific criteria of the zoning regulations and the merits of the application. All comments from the public should be new information and not be a repeat of comments previously presented. Unless a member of the public has new comments to or questions of the chair, members of the public who wish to address the commission are asked to briefly indicate whether or not they are in agreement with the previous speaker and not repeat the same testimony. Members of the public are expected to practice appropriate etiquette by being quiet, observant, and respectful. Disruptive attendees may be removed from verbally participating. All members of the public who participate today, after all members of the public who participate today finish addressing the commission, the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to public comments or questions. After the applicant and or his associates have concluded the presentation, they've answered all questions, they've addressed all concerns from the commission and all public, and if no further information is needed by the commission, the chair will ask for a motion to close the public hearing. If the commission feels further information is needed, the chair will ask for a motion to keep the public hearing open. And finally, if the public hearing closes, the chair will poll the commission for a consensus on whether or not there's any reason not to vote on the application. Just a reminder to the commission that once the public hearing has opened and until it is closed, Commissioners are not permitted to make any public comment, discuss any part of the applicant's presentation, or receive additional information from anyone. So we'll begin with the first public hearing, and the chair would like to correct for the record that the application number for item A should be 2111. That application is from Rose Tizo and Company LLC for RD Cinto Inc. at Waterview Drive for a modification of the Statement of Uses and Standards to PDD number 39 on 11.18 acres to allow for warehousing and wholesale businesses. Commissioner Motto, would you please read the public hearing notice?
Sure. The Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Shelton, Connecticut hereby gives notice of a public hearing to be held on June 16th, 2021 at 6 o'clock to consider the following projects. Number one is initiation of application 21-11 PDD 39 Rose Tizo and Company LLC for RD Cinto Inc. at Waterview Drive on 11.18 acres for modifications of the Statement of Uses and Standards, parking ratio adjustment, maximum building coverage, and allow for warehousing and wholesale businesses.
Okay. Thank you. The application was accepted for review on May 11th, and the public hearing is scheduled for today. The petition for major modification and revised statement were posted to the city's website for this application. Mr. Rossetti, were any comments received from the public that we need to acknowledge for the record?
No.
Okay. Who's representing the applicant?
I am Pat Rose from Rose Tizo, and Rob Cinto from RD Cinto is here with me.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Nice to see you. So, Mr. Rose?
Yep, I just we'll go through what we're looking to do with the Planned Development District number 39. I know if people are familiar with the site, it's on the corner of Waterview Drive and Constitution, comes up and is directly across from the Rennell condominium, and then backs up to Pitney Bowes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a decent sized piece of property, 11 acres. And what we found is that our owner is got tenants or multiple people who are interested in warehouse manufacturing / office space under one roof in decent sized pieces of buildings. So this 11 acres seems to fit with being able to provide that program for them.
Mm-hmm.
So what we looked to do was to amend PDD 39, which previously was done for an 8-story large office building for Bank of China. That is not going to come to fruition in anybody's lifetime, probably. So what we're looking at is to add a use to the Statement of Uses and Standards. That we'd be adding number 11, warehousing and wholesale business, as one of the allowed uses. Along with that, we'd be changing or asking to amend the parking ratio such that we would be 1.5 spaces per 1,000 to 3.5 spaces per 1,000, depending on the use. So we want to reduce the parking requirement for the warehousing manufacturing type users as opposed to the 3.5 for the office.
Let me
And-
just clarify, if I can just interrupt you for a minute.
Sure.
So presently, it was at 3.5 to 1,000 square feet
Right.
net rentable floor area, but now you want to drop that down to 1.5.
Well, it would be 1.5 to 3.5. There may
Oh,
become
okay.
use that is more office than is
Yeah,
warehouse. So we really need to have some flexibility depending on the tenant that we get. Yes.
yeah, the 2 in there is meaning range,
Correct. Yes.
not from one to another. Okay,
Correct.
got it. Go ahead.
The third change is to amend the building coverage of the PDD area. It was at 8%, which is very small. It's a very small, compact footprint. We're looking to bring it up to 20%,
Mm-hmm.
which when you look at the site itself, lends itself to a building. It could be 70, 80, 85,000 square feet or so,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So those are the three changes that we'd like to make to the PDD number 39. We haven't submitted a site plan yet, just because they've been talking to multiple tenants. They each have their own requirement that's specific to their use. So if we can get this approved, I think they're going to focus in on, somebody as being the favorite son, and then we would go ahead and submit site plan and building for approval.
Mhm. So this is all new build.
All new build, yes.
Okay,
Nothing on the site right now.
right. It's a lot of trees. Mr. Cinto, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, nothing other than, right now that this is the flavor, if you will. There's a lot of manufacturing tenants out there that we're chasing
Mhm.
that have, office, call it 10,000 square feet of office, 40,000 square feet of light assembly manufacturing, and then some warehousing needs. And we're getting very close with a handful of them. And, we think this would be a great site for them to go to. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. All right, Mr. Rossetti, do you have any comments, questions, or concerns on this?
Staff does not at this time.
Okay. Any of the commissioners have any comments, questions, or concerns?
With this, any application that comes in, would it still be as a PDD so that we would have something to say about the aesthetics and the
Mhm.
layout?
Yes, it would be a PDD. We were maintaining the PDD, just amending it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there still would be oversight by the commission. This is not as of right.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you.
Mhm. Anybody else? No.
Madam Chair,
Okay, Mr. Panico, do you have any?
I was just curious as to whether the applicant anticipated any pure warehousing operation as opposed to warehousing associated with some other use.
As of right now, all the tenants that we are chasing is like I just described, similar to what we did up the street, where there's going to be a combination of office, light assembly, and warehouse. As of right now, we're getting close to a couple deals, and that's how they're all laying out.
Mhm. Right, yeah.
So
it's not-
jobs, there'll be jobs. There will be jobs, right? It won't just be,
Mhm.
right, yeah, like Random House or something like that.
Good, okay. All right, anybody, before Mr. Rossetti, I was gonna say something, but any other comments? Okay, if not, Mr. Rossetti, what do you have for us?
Staff would, propose if the commission would like to close the hearing, and if they're favorable in taking any action, we are certainly open to that. If there is additional information the commission would like to consider or need, now's the time to ask. But staff is pretty comfortable. We understand that the request for parking variation. We've seen this with other proposals with LIP and warehousing that, if you might only have one employee for 1,500 square feet in a warehouse facility, so you don't need one parking space for every 100 square feet versus, like what you need in an office building. So we understand that change. We understand the need for warehousing. And again, this is a PDD, so revised plans will have to come back before the commission.
Mhm. Yep, yeah, we definitely have oversight on it still.
My only concern is that that parking, the way it's set forth right now, can be somewhat confusing. And normally, if there's different uses with different parking ratios, it should be stated that way. I would not want to see a situation where one of the other permitted uses comes in and says, hey, we only need 2 spaces per unit for whatever. So.
Tony, the reason I did it that way is just because I know that from the tenants, they have, even though they have 3 components, those 3 components could vary between a tenant. I tried to be able to say, okay, we've got 10,000 square feet of office. We need this for the office. We need this for the manufacturing. We need this for warehousing.
Mhm. And each applicant would. still
And I
have
think,
to know.
yeah. I think there's gonna be plenty of space on the site that if, say that tenant went away, there would be room to reserve parking for somebody in the future that needed some more.
I have no concerns about that. My only concern is an entirely different use comes in at some point and says, we don't really need 3.5 spaces per thousand, we only need 2. And there's nothing in the regulation that says it can't be done that way. I would prefer seeing the language stay the way it is at 3 per thousand, but put in the exception for warehousing and wholesale businesses, which will be allowed at 1.5 spaces.
You want to be specific.
I'd like it to be a little more specific, yes.
Say, Tony, doesn't that get clarified in the resolution? Isn't that,
If there's going to be a resolution,
yeah, I mean, if, right, but wouldn't that be part of the
certainly,
statement?
if the commission is in agreement with, that's how it would normally be handled, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think your point is well taken, just to make sure that it's clear.
Mhm.
Well, is there,
Well, objection, obviously, warehousing does not require a lot of parking.
mhm,
The 1.5 is realistic.
mhm.
It's just,
Does-
how we incorporate it into the text, that's all.
Does it help matters if we treat this somewhat like we've done when we have high-rise residential apartments where there is space that will not be paved at this moment for parking, but it's set aside and reserved with pavers or
Yeah.
something?
That's what we just did at Waterview. Yeah, like future parking, sure.
Yeah, for each person. Would that help, Tony?
Way, but we can't really address that until we have a site plan to look at, a development plan.
Mhm.
Yes. Understand.
If we had a development plan and showed a lot of warehousing and the site was, the whole plan was based on 1.5 spaces per thousand, I would ask the question, what happens when the warehouse goes away and you put in a full manufacturing operation? Where do you park the people?
Mhm.
So how we apply the ratio doesn't come into play until we see a plan and how they are addressing their present and future parking needs.
Mhm.
I think the standard is appropriate. It's up to us to apply it in the right way.
Mhm.
Really do that until we see a proposed plan.
Tony, if there's any change in the, say, ownership or change in the structure of the operation, wouldn't they have to come back and amend the statement of uses again?
I would think not.
No?
Unless
Well,
there-
then it should be clarified in the statement of uses.
Unless there's another use out there that we're not aware of.
Mhm.
I would not expect it to, though.
Well, the permitted uses right now, office buildings for business and professional establishments. Second one is research labs. The third is manufacture, processing, or assembly of goods when accessory and subordinate to a permitted use being conducted on the same premises and when located within an enclosed building. Fourth permitted use is signs as approved by the commission. Fifth is off-street parking and loading facilities. And the spaces shall be 9 feet wide and 18 feet deep. Another sixth permitted use is restaurants that have liquor, other food service establishments intended for use of tenants of the PDD and located within the principal structure. Seventh is retail outlets, when goods are sold or services rendered when accessory and subordinate to a permitted use on the same premises. The eighth is health and athletic facilities intended for the use of tenants of the PDD and located within the principal structure. 9, parking structures related to office buildings. And the 10th one that currently exists is other accessory uses customary with and incidental to any aforesaid permitted use, including such things as co-located telecommunication facilities and related equipment, child daycare facilities intended primarily for the use of the tenants of the PDD, etc. So, I don't know,
Obviously, the statement of uses that you just recited was really tailored to an office building.
Mhm.
Now we're not dealing with that anymore, so.
Yeah.
It may very well be when we see what a proposed development plan realistically is, that some additional tailoring might be necessary, but I think that's a pretty broad catch-all.
In a way, it doesn't particularly bother me seeing that we can get more specific at the time
Mhm.
of application.
I think what we need to point out, though, is that the 1.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet is for a warehousing operation.
Right,
Okay,
right.
that's all.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why.
It does not apply to any other uses.
Mhm. Does it necessary to put anything in saying the commission reserves the right to designate something or other? The amount of spacing, depending on the application?
I don't think it's necessary to
Okay,
confuse it. I
Sure.
think you inherently
Yeah.
have it right anyway.
okay.
Tony, I was referring to the statement of uses for the PDD, not the regulation itself.
Hmm.
Just to clarify what my question was before.
This particular PDD, obviously, all PDDs state what their permitted uses are.
Right,
So any one of those uses that the chairperson recited would be one that could be considered under the zoning portion of the PDD. So when they develop a development plan, all their anticipated uses would fall under those permitted uses.
okay.
Okay, and I think right now we're covered fine. I
Mhm.
think all we need to do is make it clear that the 1.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet is for warehousing and office use, warehouse use.
And then should we continue by saying up to 3.5 spaces for office and
What we
manufacturing?
simply have two numbers in there, 1.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of warehousing space and 3.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of all other uses.
Mhm. Does that cover it?
Yeah, I believe it does, because right now it's 3.5 for all uses. And what
Mhm.
we're doing is creating a special ratio for the warehousing space,
Mhm.
acknowledging that it requires less parking. No, that would definitely do it.
Okay. Do any commissioners or staff have any comments about doing it in that manner?
We concur.
That was Alex, okay. All right. All right, so anybody else have any comments before we proceed?
Let's say I walk that Waterview from time to time, and
Mhm.
it seems like that kind of operation would fit with everything else that's up there.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep,
If
absolutely.
you make the building nice, yeah.
We will. I
Which
promise.
I'm sure you will. Yeah.
Thank you.
If it were another developer, I would be concerned, but I would offer that we
Mhm.
do not expect to see modified development plans that focus solely on warehousing and related uses.
Mhm.
We'd
Understood.
like to see
Thank you.
something else with it,
Yeah, it's definitely looking for a mixed use.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, we don't want a big warehouse sitting up there for sure
Exactly.
by itself. Okay, so any other comments from the applicant to any the comments that we've made?
I think it makes a lot of sense. This Commissioner Ticky, I think, and we've talked about warehousing, especially under COVID, and the importance of warehousing and distribution now more than ever. So as I think I've mentioned in these last couple of months, I think this makes sense, and I'm fine with the modifications to this. Are you looking for a motion tonight, Chairwoman?
Yes, I will be. I just want to find out from Mr. Rose, Mr. Cinto, do you have any other comments that you want to share? If not, we'll move ahead.
Please do.
Okay, just want to give you one last time.
Thank
Okay, so, yep, I was just going to ask, is there a motion first to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion to close the public hearing for application 2111 from Commissioner Ticky. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second with Commissioner Amato. So on the roll call to close the public hearing, Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, so we have closed the public hearing. Are there any objections to moving forward on this application at this time?
This Commissioner Tiki, I have no objections at this time to move forward on it. Seems fairly straightforward, and any details, staff can also work out with the applicant.
Okay, so is there any commissioner would like to move the motion to approve application 2111?
Commissioner Tiki will motion.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Kelly. Okay, chair will do a roll call on the motion to approve
That's
application.
a motion to approve subject to staff working out the final language.
Yes. we
Yes.
Agree on that? Okay, Commissioner.
Yeah, Commissioner Tiki agrees on that. Mr.
And Commissioner
Pimentel.
Kelly?
I agree on that too.
Okay, so doing a roll call on the motion. As we just clarified, Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
and Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion has passed to approve application 2111 with the clarifications that we just mentioned by a vote of 6-0.
Madam Chairman, this
Yes.
is a zoning modification, so we should be establishing an effective date.
Okay, Mr.
And
Rossetti?
all you need to do is allow a little bit of time to work out the language changes.
Okay. Mr. Rossetti, do you want to have an effective date?
July 2nd.
Okay. This would be a July 2nd. Do we need to modify our motion to include that?
Well, you can deal with it as a separate motion if you want.
Okay. Is there anyone that can make a motion to make the effective date of this approved motion on July 2nd, 2021?
Commissioner Kelly, yes.
Okay, is there a
Make the
second?
motion.
Commissioner Parkins will second.
Okay, and then on a roll call, Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So the motion to make this approved motion is effective July 2nd, has passed 6-0. Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
you're welcome. Have a good evening. Okay, next agenda item is application 2113, City of Shelton, for regulations text change. Commissioner Motto, would you read the public hearing notice, please?
Sure. The Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Shelton, Connecticut hereby gives notice of a public hearing to be held on June 16th, 2021 at 6 o'clock to consider the following project. Initiation of application 21-13, City of Shelton for a regulations text change of section 5.3 accessory warehousing and storage and Schedule A, line use 42A, permitting accessory warehousing in an LIP zone with site plan approval.
Okay, thank you very much. This application was accepted for review on June 8th. Public hearing was scheduled for today. P&Z staff issued a memo dated June 9th explaining the current permitted uses and proposed language changes for Schedule A, line 42A, and that was posted on the city's website. Mr. Rossetti, were there any comments received from the public that we need to acknowledge for the record?
I have not received any.
Okay. And Mr. Rossetti, I understand you have comments. You're going to do a review of this particular application.
Yes.
Okay, you have the floor.
Okay. This is the memo that is both online and hopefully is familiar to everyone here. Slash, I guess I should say report. The reason, there are a couple of reasons for this coming before the commission. The primary one being we've received inquiries about how to include accessory warehousing in the LIP zone. Both the mayor's office and our office. And right now there is some confusion as to how to treat proposals that have a variety of uses, with one of them being accessory warehousing. After meeting with the zoning subcommittee, we discussed this and it was determined that this would be an appropriate use in the LIP zone in support of an additional primary use. So reading the current language, which dictates that sorry, let me just back up really quick. Right now, accessory warehousing is currently only allowed in the IA3 zone, of which there are 6 or 7 IA3 zones in the entire city. And they are very small. Most of them are in the 1 acre to 2 acre range. So they would not support warehousing in general. And here's the text that is currently written for accessory warehousing, copied out of the book. The key points are that it's for the reuse of existing space. The building has to be at least 100,000 square feet. It can't be altered in any way for the warehousing. It has to be at least 50% of the total gross floor area. And then there's this final one has since been repealed in the general statutes.
Would you explain the reason why that paragraph exists, in that it was written to accommodate a particular need that PerkinElmer had in order to successfully occupy their excess warehousing space?
Sure.
That's the only reason that was written the way it was written.
So
Just for one person?
that's apparently the case. We find that slightly, perhaps the zone has changed, but kind of confusing because PerkinElmer is in an office park district. But as indicated above, this text is for the IA3 zone. And so we haven't found a reason why that would be appropriate. But PerkinElmer is a pre-existing non-conforming, it's not really a non-conforming use, but it's what
is the zoning at PerkinElmer, Al?
It's OPD, Office Park District.
That was made subsequent to when this zoning amendment was put in.
Yeah, so I would assume then that either before it was OPD, most likely it was either IA2 or IA3, which would then make sense as to why this accessory warehousing is allowed by site plan in an IA3 zone. But as it is now, it doesn't behoove us to have this text where it doesn't really apply anywhere. So then, we highlighted the changes that we would like to make in regards to how it deals with the current text, explaining, that some of these, as it's currently written, these current regulations are very strict and confining. And as you just heard by the previous applicant, warehousing is in demand and probably is not going to disappear anytime soon with the way that e-commerce has taken off in this country, and with many different types of uses requiring warehousing. And so we would like to facilitate the ability for businesses in the LIP zone to take advantage of that. So where we ultimately end up is as follows. Accessory warehousing is the storage of goods and warehouse space designated for such purpose to support the needs of the primary permitted uses and as an accommodation for the adaptive reuse of limited portions of space in sizable existing buildings. Accessory warehousing and storage will provide approval of a site plan and certificate of zoning compliance by the P&Z Commission upon compliance with all of the following conditions. A, not more than 50% of the employees shall be so used for such accessory warehousing and storage related to the primary permitted use, and any exterior alteration of the existing building to accommodate such use shall be subject to the submission and approval of site plans pursuant to section 31. And this is a typo. It shall read, and shall not violate section 23.2.5. We do not want it to violate, we want it to not to violate. So that is a typo that will be corrected. So there are a couple kind of big, larger changes here. One is that we didn't feel that there's a recommendation by Tony to add an additional line item in here, which says that the gross floor area for the accessory warehousing shall not exceed, Tony, if I flip it, shall not exceed 80%, right, of the total floor area for the establishment. And so we think that's also a good guideline, because as it's currently written with just the 50% of the employees, someone could, just have most of their employees in a small office space, but then have a massive warehouse facility with limited number of employees. And so we think that the gross floor area of a maximum of 80% would be appropriate. Because if you have, let's say, 100,000 square foot facility, and you've got 70,000 square foot or 80,000 square foot of warehousing and storage for your materials, you may only need 10,000 square feet for manufacturing, or 15,000 square feet and 5,000 square feet for your office space. So, again, this is something that it has to be accessory to a primary use. And that's where we are. So we would like to make the change that it shall not be more than 50% of the employees, that there will be an additional line item that it shall not exceed 80% of the floor area, and that this would be allowed in conjunction with a site plan. However, there are some uses listed for the LIP zone that require a special exception. So let's say, for example, that offices are permitted in the LIP zone by a special exception. If an office additionally wanted to have accessory warehousing, that would have to be part of the office application requiring a special exception. This does not, just kind of grant warehousing in broad strokes. This specific piece is to address the accessory portion of it.
Mm-hmm. And the way it's written, it is for existing buildings.
Correct. So it's written for existing buildings. It was written for a particular use to help accommodate PerkinElmer to adjust their existing, that's a massive facility, to help accommodate them to use some of that space, which we've done with Gary Line Plastics. I'm sure you guys will all remember that. And they went in on the non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming kind of use, not as a site plan application or a special exception application.
Mm-hmm. So if somebody comes in and puts up a building, and then they want to add warehousing, they would be, and they're in the LIP zone, that would be, they can make an application for a special permit.
Yes, well, so if they have an existing building
Mhm.
And all they're going to do is add on some warehousing,
Mhm.
and assuming they meet the criteria that not more than 50% of the employees would be employed in the warehouse area, and that the warehouse area would not take up more than 80% of the gross floor area of the buildings on that site, then they would be able to submit a site plan application, and assuming they meet the criteria of, again, our Schedule B section saying, your setbacks, your lot coverage area, assuming they meet all of that, then they would be allowed to have an addition for warehousing.
Mhm.
If they do not meet those criteria, if they're going above the bulk standards, if they want to do more than 50% of the employees, or if they want to go above the floor area percentage, then we would say, right now, no. That would be above an accessory use, and they would have to tailor that.
Now, how does this relate to new buildings? Buildings that aren't even existing now, but may occur in the future?
Same guidelines.
Okay,
Commissioner
Alex.
Aggie,
okay,
Commissioner Kelly,
go ahead.
I have a few questions on this. If you put up say a good sized building, maybe 300,000 or 400,000 square feet, and is the owner allowed to subdivide to different companies in 100,000-foot increments to do this?
Can you repeat that for me?
If you put up
Theoretically,
a
yes.
building of, say, 400,000 square feet,
Theoretically, yes.
is that what?
Each one of
you're
those
right?
increments, each one of those increments would have to meet the threshold of supportive versus principal use. There would have to be a permitted use associated with each one of those subdivided increments.
Okay,
So you can't just meet it on the 400,000 square feet and then keep a quarter of it and rent.
right,
it
that's what I'm getting
out
at,
as
yeah.
warehousing space. No, I would say that that's not a proper interpretation.
All right.
You agree, Alex?
I would.
Alex, when we met the zoning subcommittee, this was discussed in terms of the business, I think it's called mercantile or,
Correct.
right.
So
And weren't they wanting to add space? I mean, part of what you're describing here is only for existing buildings, but I thought in
No.
our discussion of,
No,
No, it's not.
Written it
No,
to take that
so
impact out of it.
it's
oh, that's
current,
coming out. Okay.
yeah, it's currently written for existing buildings, which is the problem. We
Oh,
want to
okay.
allow it for both existing and newly
And
proposed.
new.
buildings.
The problem is back then, 30 years ago, the commission did not want to open up any of their industrial zones for pure warehousing operations.
Yeah.
They felt it was inconsistent with prime office and manufacturing uses. So that's why, in order to accommodate the problem that PerkinElmer had with all this humongous warehousing space that they needed far in excess of their needs, and they wanted to be able to lease it out. So the commission said, okay, you got a very difficult situation. Rather than sending you for a variance, we'll put something in our regulations that allow us to do it. And that's why we put in those very restrictive standards. Now we have an entirely different situation, because after that was all done, a subsequent zoning commission decided to change the IA zone to a office park district, which totally invalidated the entire operation.
So the primary example here that's most applicable to this commission is this company, Mercantile Development. They primarily make sanitizing wipes for commercial enterprises. They would like to duplicate their facility over here. And they are existing in the LIP zone. And we understand that this was allowed as a manufacturing facility, but, they have a substantial amount of warehousing. Now, it may have been previously been interpreted that, and it makes sense that, of course, warehousing would be part of a manufacturing facility, right? However, we feel that there are some misinterpretations of the regulations, and we would just like to clarify that by saying accessory warehousing is allowed with manufacturing. Here are the basic guidelines that you have to meet. And so any facility like Mercantile or Pitney Bowes or Inline Plastic would be able to meet the criteria we are setting.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And
Does make sense.
the key, I think, is that it's accessory to the main business.
Mhm.
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely.
It's part of the business. It's not an
Right.
accessory. Yes.
It's not just a warehouse
Mhm.
business, period. Yeah, it's part of the whole operation.
We're
It would
getting
be hard
into-
to imagine
into
that
more
in this
gray
day and
areas,
age.
however. One of the issues that has come up, that Alex pointed out to me, is there's a lot of interest by a particular company that wants to create a facility in Shelton. And they would have, I don't know, 10, 15, 20,000 square feet of office space. But then they want to bring the product in that's manufactured somewhere else to this location and then transship it out from that location.
So
That's a
again,
little different. That's a little different than when you're making the product on
That is
site.
correct.
Correct.
There's no doubt in my mind, if you're making the product on site, you are permitted to have whatever accessory warehousing space you require to serve your needs.
so
Mhm.
the example that I mentioned to Tony was Boar's Head. I'm sure you're all familiar with the deli brand,
Mhm.
cold cuts and meats. They wanted, I believe, I was contacted because their facility in the Bronx was closing, or their lease was ending, or something was happening. They wanted to relocate, and they were looking at some property right over on here on Ivy Brook, which is also an LIP zone.
Mhm.
They wanted to have, I don't remember the exact numbers, but a sizable amount of office space, 10 to 15,000 square feet, which is, that could be many, many employees. And in addition, they wanted to have, let's say it's an 80,000 square foot building. They wanted to have 10 to 15,000 square feet of office space, with the remaining being for, warehousing of, their meats and products that they sell. So in an
that are
LIP
manufactured
zone,
elsewhere.
correct. It's all made on farms. It's not a farm, Tony.
Mhm.
So they would,
It's processed somewhere else.
correct.
Yeah.
So they would have their offices potentially by special exception in this zone, because that's what they indicated to us, that they would want one of their kind of corporate headquarters here in 10 to 15,000 square feet. But if they're going to be building a building, why would they not try and maximize it to also allow them to have this as kind of a hub for warehousing of their goods? And so that's another example. We can't come up with all the examples that the commission's going to see. I wish we could, but those are the two most recent ones that come to my attention. And the mayor has indicated that there are others that kind of he has on a short list. Should this kind of move forward.
Isn't that more of a distribution center, though? They're coordinating distribution of other products, right? So liquor distribution, right? You get all kinds of Budweiser beer and you put it into a warehouse, and then that distribution company sells it and distributes it. Wouldn't that be the same type of thing as the Boar's Head example you used?
Because it's only their product. It's not everybody else's product.
Well, is it Boar's Head
that
that's going to
would
have the
be their
facility there,
product.
or is it a distributor of Boar's Head?
It was Boar's Head,
Okay.
the company. But again, to answer your question, that's why we recommend having, kind of that employee distribution and the minimum requirements of gross floor area that, most of the building can't be, or most of the building could be for warehousing, but, cap it at 75%.
And
So
there
that
needs to
way-
be, there needs to be a relationship between the office use and the warehousing use.
I agree.
Such as Boar's Head, I imagine they would be putting their own Boar's Head offices there and distributing their product from there. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Yes.
That's basically the way it's written.
Mhm.
Correct. So that's kind of the proposal we have in front of you. And again, we would add that it not violate section, I forget, what was it? Not violate section 23, and that we would include the gross floor area may not exceed 80%.
This goes back to a proposal that was put before the commission many years ago, when in that same neighborhood, just down the street from where you're talking, where before there was any development up there, I believe it was the Coca-Cola bottling company wanted to come in and put this massive warehouse for their product and then ship out from there. And the commission concluded that it was simply a warehousing operation, and that's not what they were interested in.
Mhm.
How much office space, if any, Coca-Cola was going to incorporate into the proposal, I don't recall. So, we're getting into fresh thinking now, thinking that was not acceptable 20, 30 years ago.
Mhm. And that's what we have to be flexible about.
Of course
Times
we
change.
do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, so and I can bring it up, one of the reasons why I think, let me see if I can pull it up quickly. Why? So when you look at, come on. When we look at this area, this is PDD 39. They have, likely one of the reasons why they have, as we just saw, PDD was to potentially allow this warehousing. Similar.
That's a good site to talk about. That's roughly an 11 acre site. So 20%, which is what we're talking about allowing them to have now, 20% would be a little over 2 acres or roughly 100,000 square feet. So they could theoretically come back with 100,000 square foot warehousing tenant for which there is 20,000 square feet of associated office space. Correct?
So, no, Tony, I think you have the ratio back there. You had said not less than 20% of the total area must be devoted to the primary permitted use. So that would mean that they could have 80% of the total floor area for warehousing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So any questions from the commissioners? Any other things we can field for you?
No, I think you've explained things pretty clearly. Any commissioners have any comments, questions, or concerns for Mr. Rossetti or Mr. Panico?
No,
I think I've got it. I think it makes sense. Same with similar to the previous item that we
exactly.
reviewed. Yeah.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Okay. All right, so is there a motion? Anybody like to make a motion to close the public hearing for application?
1 second, Jenny. I'm assuming, I think this is Mark, but I think we need to have a public portion, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped over that part of my script. It's right here in front of me.
I think,
So is there any members of the public that need to address the commission on this application?
I don't see anyone. We just admitted Mark. I believe that's going to be Commissioner Wadomski.
Yeah, he's muted at this time, but on the participant list,
I do not see anyone remaining.
no. Okay. All right. All right, so no members of the public are available or here to make any comments to the commission on this application. So move forward then. Is there any commissioner that would like to move a motion to close the public hearing for application 2113?
I'll make that motion, Commissioner.
Okay, there's a motion to close the public hearing from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Okay, second from Commissioner Parkins. So we'll do a roll call on the motion to close the public hearing. Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Dickey,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion to close public hearings passed 6-0. All right, is there any commissioner that feels that we should not move forward on this particular application at this time?
I think we should move forward, approve it.
Okay. So hearing no objections to moving forward on this application, do we have a formal resolution on this one, Mr. Rossetti?
We do not. It would,
Okay.
the commissioners would have to make a motion for approval with the modification that the maximum floor area be set for the warehousing and that it shall not violate section 23 of the regulations.
Okay. Is everybody clear on that?
Yes.
And, that it be changed in Schedule A to permitted with the site plan, of course.
Repeat that last part again. Change Schedule A what?
So line 42A will be
Mhm.
changed so that accessory warehousing is allowed by a site plan application.
Okay. Okay, is there someone that would like to move that particular motion with the specifics that Mr. Rossetti just detailed?
So move.
Okay, there's a motion to approve application 2113 from Commissioner Kelly with the comments that Mr. Rossetti just included. Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Laskos.
There's a second from Commissioner Laskos. I'll do a roll call on the motion. Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Dickey.
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos.
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Motion to approve application 2113 has passed with a vote of 6-0. Okay, final item on the agenda is a notation that the June 8th, 2021 minutes are available on the website for review, and they will be on an upcoming agenda for approval. So please make sure that you become familiar with them.
Madam Chair, can I just say, Tara and the recording secretaries, could you please make sure that for the record that the application numbers are corrected as we indicated earlier in this meeting. If you need clarification, just reach out to us.
Okay, so Stephanie and Sarah, please verify with Alex the application numbers when you do the minutes in the transcript. All right, seeing that there's no other item on the agenda, Chair declares the meeting adjourned.
Chairwoman, there was minutes. I'm not sure if we needed to, didn't I see minutes on the agenda on the website?
It's just a notation that under other business, minutes available for review.
Oh, okay. I misread. Thought we needed to approve. Very good.
Okay, so meeting is adjourned as of 7:06 p.m.
Night, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Have a
everyone.
rest of your evening.
You too now.